Jenna woke up that Saturday morning to the familiar sound of her phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. She squinted through sleep, rolling over to see her cousin's name flashing on the screen. Groggy but already feeling the tug of responsibility she always carried for her relatives, she answered. Her cousin Mia sounded frantic. "Jenna, I'm so sorry to do this last minute, but I have an emergency at work. Can you pick up Adam Whitaker from the airport for me? Just hold a sign and bring him to the Grandview Hotel. It's simple, I promise." Jenna sat up, rubbing her temples. She'd been looking forward to a quiet weekend, a chance to catch up on reading and maybe binge-watch a new series, but resistance felt impossible. Mia was like a sister to her. They'd grown up sharing clothes, secrets, and sleepovers. To turn her down now would feel like a betrayal. A heavy sigh escaped her as she swung her legs over the side of the bed. "All right," she said softly. "I'll do it." She spent the next hour getting ready. She didn't wear anything fancy. A pair of dark jeans and a soft white blouse would be enough. She straightened her hair quickly, applied just enough makeup to look presentable, and grabbed her small black purse. In the kitchen, she made herself a cup of tea, thinking about Mia's request. Mia had started a new job a few months ago at a promising tech startup called Veritask. As a junior marketing associate, she often found herself thrown into stressful situations. Jenna remembered when Mia stayed up all night preparing a pitch presentation. She'd brought her coffee at dawn and cheered her on. How could she say no now? By mid-morning, Jenna checked her watch. Her flight was scheduled to land at 10:30. She left home by 9, giving herself plenty of time to drive the winding roads to the airport. The sky was a brilliant blue, and a gentle breeze ruffled the trees as she pulled into the long-term parking lot. She parked, folded her sign, on which Mia had neatly printed Adam Whitaker in bold black letters, and headed into the terminal. Inside, the airport was alive with energy. Families reunited with hugs and laughter. Business travelers strode purposefully toward the exits, and airport staff directed foot traffic with practiced ease. Jenna took a deep breath, smoothing out her sign one more time. She glanced around for Mia's boss's new CEO, but saw no familiar faces. She found a bench near the arrivals gate and sat down, folding her legs elegantly beneath her. She rehearsed a friendly greeting. "Welcome to our city, Mr. Whitaker. I'm here to pick you up. Your cousin couldn't make it, so I'm filling in." It sounded too formal. She made a mental note to keep it light. After all, she was just doing a favor. As the arrival time approached, Jenna's nerves began to flutter. She watched the glass doors swing open again and again, but none of the travelers seemed to match the image she had in her mind of a polished, confident CEO. She sipped from her water bottle, feeling the cool liquid slide down her throat, and let her gaze drift to the large digital board listing incoming flights. Finally, at 10:30, the flight from San Francisco was marked landed. A cheer rose from a group of relatives waiting nearby, but Jenna kept her focus. Minutes passed. More people came through, some looking around eagerly for familiar faces, others clutching their luggage straps with tired hands. Jenna scanned them all. She studied their expressions, trying to anticipate who could be Mr. Whitaker. She almost approached a tall man with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard, but he briskly walked past without noticing her sign. Another businessman in a crisp suit hurried through, talking on his phone. Not him either. As frustration set in, Jenna wondered if the flight had been delayed. She checked her phone for updates, only to see it still showed landed. She frowned, drinking the last of her water and wishing she had brought more. The arrivals hall felt more crowded by the minute. Her heart pounded a bit faster. What if the CEO got stuck? What if Mia's boss blamed her for the confusion? Jenna shook her head, determined not to let panic take over. She could handle this. Then, suddenly she saw him. A man in his early 40s wearing a tailored charcoal suit emerged from the crowd. His hair was dark with a few streaks of gray at the temples, and he carried a small leather briefcase. He glanced around as if searching for someone. Jenna's heart leapt. It had to be him. She stood lifting the sign above her head so it caught his eye. "Mr. Whitaker," she called, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. The man paused and looked directly at her. There was nothing pretentious about his expression, just a polite, slightly curious smile. He approached. Jenna set the sign down and offered her hand. "Welcome to Raleigh," she said. "I'm Jenna. Carter. I'm picking you up for Veritask." He shook her hand, his grip firm. "Jenna, yes. Thank you for meeting me." He glanced at the sign and nodded. "I appreciate you filling in for Mia." As he followed her through the sliding doors toward the parking lot, Jenna chattered about the drive. She pointed out landmarks, the city skyline framed by rolling hills, the famous ice cream shop they'd pass on the way to the hotel. He listened with polite interest, occasionally making a joke that made Jenna laugh more than she expected. She felt at ease. But as they walked, a nagging thought began to creep into Jenna's mind. She had no idea what Mia looked like or what the real CEO looked like. Mia had sent her a generic headshot by email, but it was buried under layers of text in her inbox. Now, thinking about it, Jenna realized she never actually checked the photo before coming. Her confidence wavered. She stole a quick glance at the man beside her. He certainly looked professional enough, but something about his posture seemed too relaxed for a new CEO. They reached the parking lot and Jenna unlocked her car. As he slid into the passenger seat, she noticed he didn't open his briefcase or shuffle any papers. Instead, he leaned back and glanced at the sky, like someone on a leisurely holiday. In contrast, Jenna expected the new CEO to be burying himself in contracts or presentations. "Traffic should be light," Jenna said, closing the door and walking around to the driver's side. She climbed in and started the engine. "How was your flight?" "Smooth enough," he replied. "I slept most of the way." He flicked on his seatbelt and settled in. A sudden wave of doubt hit Jenna full force. She looked at him again, then at the sign on her lap. She had meant to help Mia, but what if she had picked up the wrong person? The thought sent a jolt through her. She cleared her throat. "So, you're here for the board meeting on Monday?" He paused, glancing at her with a bemused expression. "Board meeting?" he asked. His tone was neutral, unflappable. "I'm actually here to celebrate my retirement." Jenna's breath caught in her throat. Retirement? She blinked, trying to process the words. This man was not coming to be Veritask's new CEO. He was a guest on a completely different trip. Somewhere in the airport, the real Mr. Whitaker, her cousin's interim CEO, was waiting alone, and Jenna had driven off with an innocent retiree who shared the same name. Time seemed to stand still as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. She glanced at him, cheeks flushing. He looked back at her, still wearing that polite smile. Jenna forced her own to appear natural. She needed to handle this calmly. "I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I think there's been a mix-up. I was supposed to pick up a different Mr. Whitaker for a tech company, Veritask." He raised an eyebrow, but did not scowl. Instead, he offered, "No harm done. It's a funny coincidence." His warmth put her at ease. Still, Jenna's mind raced. She would have to go back to the airport. Mia would be furious. Mia's boss would be livid. And she had a very nice retired gentleman in her backseat. They drove in silence for a moment until Jenna spoke again. "Thank you for being so understanding. I'll turn around and bring you back, of course." He smiled and shook his head. "Actually, I'm on my way to the Grandview Hotel too. They have a lovely lounge. Why don't we go there, and we'll sort it out later?" Jenna exhaled, grateful for his kindness even as worry gnawed at her. She followed his suggestion and steered toward the hotel entrance, all the while thinking about how a simple favor for her cousin had spiraled into a full-blown adventure. She resolved to fix it quickly and to never underestimate the power of a name again. Jenna followed the retired gentleman through the hotel's grand lobby, her mind still racing at the startling discovery she had just made. The marble floors gleamed under the soft chandelier light, and the walls were lined with rich wood paneling and tasteful artwork. She felt a bit out of her depth in such an elegant setting, still dressed in her simple jeans and blouse, clutching the Adam Whitaker sign like a guilty secret. He paused near the reception desk. "Please let me introduce you," he said, offering his arm. "I am Adam Whitaker, though not the one you were expecting, and this is Jenna Carter, my thoughtful chauffeur for the afternoon." The receptionist glanced up and smiled. "Mr. Whitaker, welcome to the Grandview. We've prepared your suite on the top floor as requested." She handed him a key card and then looked curiously at Jenna. Jenna cleared her throat. "I'm really sorry for the confusion," she said softly. "I meant to pick up someone else, but it seems I got the wrong Mr. Whitaker." The receptionist nodded politely. "No problem, Ms. Carter. I hope you both enjoy our lounge. The view of the city is quite lovely at this time of day." They moved on, and Jenna followed Adam to the elevator. The doors slid shut with a soft chime, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. He seemed so calm, so unbothered by the entire mix-up. It helped her own nerves settle a bit. In the elevator, Adam glanced at her and offered a friendly smile. "I hope you don't mind my suggestion," he said. "But why don't you join me in the lounge? We can order some tea or coffee and you can catch your breath." Jenna nodded gratefully. "Thank you. I think I could use a moment to collect myself." When the elevator doors opened on the top floor, they stepped into a corridor with plush carpeting and soft lighting. The lounge at the end of the hall had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city skyline. The sun was beginning its descent, casting warm orange and pink hues across the buildings. Jenna's heart softened a little at the sight. It was a peaceful contrast to the chaos of the airport. They found a small seating area near a window and settled into comfortable armchairs. Adam placed his briefcase on a low table and slid off his jacket, looking more relaxed than Jenna had ever seen him at the airport. She sank back into her chair and let out a long breath. "I can't tell you enough how sorry I am," she began, glancing at him. "I feel terrible for the trouble I caused." He waved a hand. "Please don't blame yourself. It was a simple mistake. We both share the same name, that's all. Think of it as an unusual coincidence." Jenna offered a small smile. "A very unusual coincidence." She looked around, taking in the decor: velvet cushions, fresh flowers in a vase, and a small bar cart with tea, coffee, and pastries. A server approached and set down 2 cups of steaming Earl Grey tea and a plate of scones. "Thank you," Adam said as he accepted his cup. "Would you like one of these?" He pointed to the plate. Jenna picked up a scone and brushed away a loose crumb. "That looks perfect." The server left, and the two sat quietly for a moment, sipping their tea. Jenna felt a warmth spread through her, not just from the tea, but from Adam's calm demeanor. He seemed genuinely interested in making her feel comfortable. She took a deep breath and decided to learn more about her accidental passenger. "If you don't mind my asking," she said gently, "what brings you to our city?" Adam smiled, setting his cup down. "I'm here to celebrate my retirement. I've been a professor of literature at a small college for over 40 years. I decided to take a short trip before I settle into a quieter life at home." The Grandview came highly recommended. Jenna's eyes widened. "A literature professor? That sounds wonderful. Which subjects did you teach?" He leaned back and closed his eyes for a moment, as if recalling fond memories. "I taught American poetry mostly. Whitman, Dickinson, the Harlem Renaissance. Poets. I loved sharing my passion for their words with younger generations." "I'm surprised," Jenna admitted, leaning forward. "I never would have guessed from your suit and briefcase that you were a professor." He chuckled softly. "Appearances can be deceiving. I booked my trip at the last minute, and I only had this suit handy. I suppose I look more like a businessman than a retiree on vacation." Jenna grinned. "Well, you wear it well." She paused, then added, "I'd love to hear more about your favorite poets." Adam's eyes lit up. He leaned forward, speaking animatedly. "If I had to choose one," he said, "it would be Emily Dickinson. Her ability to capture the vastness of emotion in short, precise lines was remarkable. Take her poem, Hope, is the thing with feathers. She speaks of hope as a bird that perches in the soul. It's simple yet profound." Jenna nodded, genuinely interested. That is beautiful. I remember reading that poem in high school and not fully understanding it until later in life. He smiled. That's the magic of poetry. It grows with you. As they talked, Jenna found herself relaxing even more. The stress of her mistake faded as she became absorbed in their conversation. She shared a bit about herself, her work as a freelance graphic designer, her love of hiking in nearby state parks, and her habit of taking on small favors for family and friends. Adam listened attentively, occasionally nodding or asking follow-up questions. It sounds like you have a creative spirit, he observed. That must be rewarding work. It is, Jenna agreed. But it can also be unpredictable. Deadlines. Shift. Clients change their minds, much like a last-minute emergency at work. She chuckled, thinking of Mia's panicked call that morning. Adam raised an eyebrow. I take it you weren't thrilled at first to play chauffeur? Oh, I was dreading it, Jenna admitted with a laugh. I had plans to relax this weekend, but family comes first. She glanced out the window as the sky darkened. I'm glad I met you, even if by accident. Adam's face softened. I'm glad too. It's been a long time since I've met someone so kind. A soft hush fell over the lounge as the sun dipped below the horizon. The city lights began to twinkle. Jenna looked around, suddenly aware of how late it had become. She checked her phone. It was past 6 o'clock. Her heart skipped. She realized the real Mr. Whitaker must be waiting at the airport, probably frustrated and anxious. She turned to Adam. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker. I mean, Professor Whitaker. I just realized how late it is. I need to go back to the airport and find Mia's CEO. He nodded, finishing the last of his tea. Of course, it was wonderful meeting you, Jenna, and please call me Adam. She smiled. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate your understanding. They stood and gathered their things. Adam slipped on his jacket and picked up his briefcase. Jenna led the way to the elevator, her mind already planning the drive back. She felt a mixture of excitement and dread. Excitement that this unexpected meeting had been so pleasant, and dread at the thought of facing her cousin's boss and Mia. When they reached the lobby, Adam paused. I have one small favor to ask, he said, turning to her with a hopeful expression. Would you mind escorting me to my car? I'm not familiar with the hotel's parking arrangements. Jenna blinked. Of course, she said. She led him past the reception desk to the valet area, where a uniformed attendant greeted them. Jenna explained that she'd driven Professor Whitaker's car to the airport. She pointed to a sleek sedan, so she could return it to him after retrieving Mia's CEO. The valet nodded and handed her the keys. Jenna took a deep breath. Okay, she said, more to herself than to anyone else. Let's get you home first. As they walked to the parking garage, Adam smiled up at her. You know, Jenna, this mix-up might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. Jenna studied his face. Despite everything, she felt that might just be true. She opened the door of the sedan and waited for him to get in. He closed the door behind him and waved. Jenna slipped into the driver's seat and started the engine. The garage lights reflected off the car's polished surface. Jenna eased out of the spot and headed toward the exit ramp. She steeled herself for the moment she would face the real Mr. Whitaker and her cousin's inevitable scolding. Yet, in her rearview mirror, she caught a glimpse of Adam, sitting serenely in his seat, reading a small book of poetry. Jenna couldn't help but smile. Maybe, she thought, this day would have a happier ending than she first feared. And with that glimmer of hope, she pressed on toward the airport, ready to turn her mistake into a story worth telling. Jenna eased the car back onto the road, her hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than before. The city lights blurred past as she made her way toward the airport. In the silence of the car, she stole a glance at Adam, her unexpected passenger, reading his small book of poetry in the back seat. She felt grateful for his kindness, but reminded herself that real work still awaited. Mia's boss was waiting, and her cousin was counting on her. This mix-up had begun as a simple favor, but had turned into a tangled web she had to carefully untangle. When they reached the airport terminal, Jenna pulled up to the arrivals entrance. A cluster of taxis, ride shares, and family members waited, in a loose line under the bright canopy lights. She killed the engine and turned to Adam. "Here we are," she said softly. "Thank you for coming back with me." He gave her a warm smile. "Thank you for driving me. I really appreciate it." Jenna grabbed her purse and tucked the Adam Whitaker sign under her arm before stepping out into the cool evening air. Inside the terminal, the atmosphere buzzed with motion. Travelers hurried to baggage claim, friends greeted one another with embraces, and security staff zipped through aisles of passengers. Jenna led Adam toward a quieter corner by the sliding glass doors. "Do you mind waiting here for a moment?" she asked. "I need to find the right Adam Whitaker." He nodded, placing a gentle hand on hers. "Go ahead. I'll be right here." Jenna wove through the crowd, sign in hand. She paused near the large arrivals board to scan the list of incoming flights once more. The flight from San Francisco remained landed, but the walkway was now crowded with people searching for signs and familiar faces. Jenna took a deep breath and spotted a tall man in a dark suit, his posture straight and businesslike. He held a small leather tote and surveyed the crowd with a look of focus, as if he already knew this would not be a casual visit. Jenna approached him cautiously. "Mr. Whitaker?" she asked, holding out her sign. His eyes widened slightly, then he nodded. "Yes. Are you Miss Carter? Mia said you'd be here." Relief washed over her. "Yes, that's me. I'm so sorry for the delay." He offered a polite smile and extended his hand. "Not a problem," he said. His voice was calm but carried the weight of responsibility. "I appreciate you stepping in for Mia." She led him through the doors to the curbside pickup area. His steps were measured, his gaze attentive to every detail of the scene. Jenna felt a fresh wave of nerves as she navigated the traffic. She slid into the driver's seat and he joined her in the passenger side. She buckled up, her pulse racing. "I'm really sorry about what happened earlier," she began. "I picked up someone else by mistake." He glanced at her with understanding. "I heard. It's an honest mix-up. It happens." As they pulled away from the terminal, Jenna decided honesty was the best approach. "I met someone who shares your name," she said, her tone light but sincere. "He's a retired literature professor named Adam Whitaker. He was here by coincidence." The real Mr. Whitaker raised an eyebrow. "A retired professor? That's quite a coincidence." Jenna smiled. "Yes, he's staying at the Grandview Hotel, and I drove him back there. He was so kind about the whole thing." She glanced in the rearview mirror at the hotel's lights fading behind them. The drive to the Grandview Hotel, where Jenna had just been, felt shorter this time, as though the city wanted to give her a clear path for her second task. She chattered nervously about the layout of the roads and how she hoped she'd find more clear signage this time. He smiled politely, but did not interrupt. Jenna appreciated his quiet presence. It helped her focus. She parked in a nearby lot, then led him inside, where he handed his keycard to the valet. Inside the hotel lobby, Jenna's mind raced with potential apologies. She was prepared to explain the entire mix-up, own her mistake, and hope for understanding. But when she saw the look on the valet's face, he recognized Mr. Whitaker's name and showed genuine respect. She realized how important this meeting was for her cousin's career. She squared her shoulders and described the error simply. "I drove an innocent guest, Professor Whitaker, here by mistake. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience." Mr. Whitaker said, "Don't worry about it. It was a pleasure to meet him." He turned to the valet. "Thank you," he said, taking his briefcase. Then he paused at the lobby's edge. "Ms. Carter, would you mind if we take 5 minutes to sit somewhere and talk? I feel like I should know more about the person who helped at the last minute." Jenna blinked in surprise. "Of course," she said. He gestured toward an alcove with plush chairs. "After you." They settled into the chairs, Jenna's heart pounding. The space was quiet, softly lit, with potted plants and a low table between them. Mr. Whitaker folded his hands in his lap. "I've been working with Mia's team for several weeks," he began. "She speaks highly of you." I wanted to thank you in person for stepping in." Jenna's cheeks warmed. "Thank you. Mia really needed help and I didn't want to let her or you down." She paused, then added, "I feel terrible I mixed you up with someone else." He leaned forward slightly, as if offering reassurance. "It was a simple name coincidence," he said, "but I'm glad it happened. It showed me how much my team cares and how willing they are to pitch in." His words sank in, easing the knot in Jenna's chest. "I hope Mia knows how grateful you are," he continued. "She talked a lot about a cousin who always comes through." Jenna blinked, surprised. "She did?" Mr. Whitaker smiled. "Yes. She said you were the one who saved the day." Jenna felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "I'm just glad it worked out in the end." They shared a quiet moment, the hum of the lobby around them. Jenna realized that despite all the stress, she had done something meaningful, not only for her cousin but for the company. After a few minutes, Mr. Whitaker stood. "Shall we get going?" he asked. Jenna nodded and they made their way to the valet. As she waited for her car keys, she thought about how easily things could have gone wrong again. But here he was, standing with a calm but appreciative expression. When the valet returned with her car, she opened the passenger door for him and slid into the driver's seat. On the drive back to the city center, Jenna felt a sense of pride mingled with relief. The streetlights created patterns on the asphalt as the city's nightlife began to stir. Shops and cafes still had patrons, and a few buses trundled past. She glanced at Mr. Whitaker, who was checking his email on his phone. She wanted to ask if he'd like any immediate assistance once they arrived, but he caught her eye and shook his head slightly. No need. When they reached the office building where Veritask held its headquarters, Jenna parked and turned off the engine. It was nearly 8 o'clock. The lobby was quiet now, only a security guard on duty. She turned to Mr. Whitaker. "Here we are," she said. "I'll call Mia to let her know you've arrived." He smiled. "Thank you, Jenna. You've been wonderful." Jenna dialed Mia's number and passed the phone through the window to Mr. Whitaker. They spoke briefly. Mia's relief was audible through the speaker. "Thank you so much, Jenna. I was sure I'd get into trouble." Mr. Whitaker said, "Tell Mia I'm here and ready for tomorrow's meetings. I appreciate her and your help." Jenna hung up and turned in her seat. "She's all set," she told him. He reached into his briefcase and handed her a card. "If you ever need anything, professional or personal, feel free to reach out," he said. Jenna accepted the card in surprise. It bore his title, Interim CEO of Veritask. Beneath his name was an email and phone number. Jenna's mouth curved into a genuine smile. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded and opened the car door. "Good night, Jenna," he said. Jenna returned the gesture. "Good night, Mr. Whitaker." As he walked toward the building entrance, she sat in her car for a moment, savoring the quiet triumph. Then she started the engine and drove away, the streetlights guiding her home. Later that night, Jenna collapsed onto her couch, her legs stretched out and her shoes kicked off. She reflected on the day's events, a favor for her cousin, a case of mistaken identity, a delightful conversation with a retired professor, and, finally, a successful delivery of the actual interim CEO. The twists and turns had tested her patience and resolve, but she had navigated them with honesty and grace. As she drifted off toward sleep, she realized this was one of the most memorable Saturdays of her life and a story she would tell for years to come. Jenna woke early the next morning with the events of the previous day still vivid in her mind. She lay in bed for a moment, tasting the memory of warm tea in the hotel lounge and the light in Professor Whitaker's eyes as he recited lines of Dickinson. But today, she reminded herself, she had another mission: to support Mia at work. She texted her cousin, "Meet you at Veritask lobby in 20 minutes. Then she dressed in a crisp blouse and slacks, more professional than her weekend jeans, and told herself to take a deep breath. When Jenna arrived at Veritask's sleek glass building, she felt a flutter of nerves. The lobby was bright with polished floors and modern art on the walls. A reception desk stood in the center, and beyond it, glass doors led to a large open office. Jenna used the intercom. "I'm here to see Mia." A moment later, the receptionist smiled and waved her through. Mia was waiting near a cluster of coworkers, her expression a mix of relief and embarrassment. She rushed over, eyes bright behind her glasses. "Oh, Jenna," she said, hugging her tightly. "Thank you for coming so early. Last night's chaos. I don't even want to think about it." Jenna smiled and squeezed her cousin's hand. "It's okay, I learned a lot, like always check a photo before picking someone up." Mia laughed and rubbed her forehead. "I know. My boss called me at home when he realized you'd left with the wrong guest. I thought he would fire me on the spot." She shook her head. But he was strangely calm. They stepped into a small meeting room where Mia's manager, Mr. Patel, waited with the interim CEO, Adam Whitaker, seated across the table. He looked poised and serious, but when he saw Jenna enter, relief flooded his face. "Miss Carter, good morning," he greeted, adjusting his tie. "Thank you for making the drive again." Jenna took the seat next to Mia. She offered a quiet, "Good morning." She noticed how different this Adam Whitaker was from Professor Whitaker. This one wore a crisp suit and held a stack of documents. His eyes were focused, scanning the pages in front of him. Mr. Patel cleared his throat. "Before we begin today's agenda, I want to thank both of you for handling yesterday's mix-up so professionally. Mia, I realize this was not your fault, but it was your idea to have Jenna step in, and Jenna, you adapted quickly." He offered Jenna a small smile. "Your calm under pressure saved us from a real problem." Jenna felt heat rise in her cheeks. Mia leaned forward and whispered, "See? He gets it." Jenna nodded, and the CEO looked up. "Ms. Carter," he said, "I hope you'll consider staying on board in some capacity. You clearly have the right attitude for this company." Jenna's heart skipped. She opened her mouth to respond, but Mr. Patel spoke first. "We're actually short-handed in PR and client relations," he said. "Jenna, would you be willing to help with some of our airport pickups and guest hospitality when things get hectic?" Mia's eyes lit up. Jenna took a breath. She had come here to help her cousin, but now she had a chance to turn this favor into something more. "I'd love to help," Jenna said, surprising herself with how easy the words came. The CEO smiled. "Excellent. We'll set up a part-time contract. And Mia, I expect you to coordinate with her." After the meeting, Jenna and Mia walked back to the open office. Mia texted quickly, "You're amazing." Then she paused and added, "Also, I owe you big time." Jenna laughed. "Just send me a coffee now and then and we're even." They found a small kitchen area where co-workers gathered around a coffee machine. Jenna poured herself a cup, the aroma bright and rich. Mia joined her with a latte. They clinked cups in a quiet toast. "To mistakes that turn into opportunities," Mia said. Jenna smiled and raised her cup. "To family and unexpected friendships." She thought of Professor Whitaker and how his kindness had eased her panic. She felt grateful for the way one small favor had reshaped her weekend, and maybe her career. Later that afternoon, Jenna sat at a desk in the PR department, reviewing airport shuttle schedules on her laptop. She placed orders for welcome baskets and practiced polite greetings for upcoming guests. Every now and then, she paused to stretch or glance out the window at the city below. She felt a steady excitement. This was exactly the kind of unpredictable, yet rewarding work she enjoyed. When the clock chimed 5, Jenna packed her bag and headed back to the lobby to pick up Professor Whitaker. She smiled as she thought about how yesterday's detour had led her here. A new role, a deeper bond with Mia, and a lesson in adaptability. As she walked through the glass doors into the warm evening air, she felt ready for whatever surprise the next airport arrival would bring. Jenna arrived at the lobby of Veritask's headquarters just as the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting long shadows across the polished marble floor. She clutched her purse over her shoulder and scanned the crowd for the familiar sight of Professor Adam Whitaker's tall frame. In just a few hours, she had gone from graphic designer working at home to part-time PR liaison for one of the city's fastest-growing startups. The thrill still pulsed through her veins, and she couldn't help smiling at every glass door she passed, imagining the new possibilities that lay ahead. She spotted Professor Whitaker near the reception desk, speaking quietly with a security officer. He looked up as she approached and waved. His navy blazer and casual slacks gave him a distinguished yet approachable air. "Hello, Jenna," he greeted, his voice warm. "I hope the day treated you well." "Very well, thank you," Jenna said, returning his smile. "I've arranged everything for your evening. There's a shuttle to take you back to the Grandview in 20 minutes, and I've reserved a table for dinner at the hotel's rooftop restaurant as you requested. Would you like a moment to freshen up before we go?" He nodded gratefully. "That would be lovely. I'd like to change out of these work clothes." He patted his blazer pocket. "Thankfully, I travel with more casual attire when I can." Jenna escorted him to the elevators, engaging in light conversation about the day's meetings. She asked about his impressions of Veritask's culture, and he praised the employees' energy and creativity. Jenna felt proud. After all, she'd helped shape the first impressions by coordinating his welcome basket, organizing his schedule, and smoothing over the earlier confusion. When they reached the top floor, Jenna accompanied him to his suite. The hallway's quiet hush felt comforting after the bustle of the lobby. Inside his suite, Professor Whitaker placed his overnight bag on the bed and changed into a soft sweater and slacks. Jenna admired how he moved with the ease of someone, completely at home in any environment. "Thank you, Jenna," he said once he was ready. "I'd forgotten how nice it feels to relax in a fresh set of clothes after a busy day." They walked together to the hotel's rooftop terrace, which overlooked the downtown core. Twinkling lights of office buildings and street lamps painted the city in a gentle glow. A light breeze carried the faint hum of traffic and distant laughter from street-level cafes. Their table was set with crisp white linens, flickering candles, and a simple vase of fresh flowers. Jenna had requested a corner seat so they could enjoy both the view and a bit of privacy. Professor Whitaker gestured toward the panorama. "This is beautiful. You did well arranging this." Jenna took a deep breath. "I'm glad you like it. I thought it would be a nice way to end your first full day here." She glanced at the menu. "Would you like to start with something to drink? We have sparkling water, herbal tea, or, if you prefer, something stronger." He laughed softly. "I'll have the herbal tea, please. I'm still on East Coast time and need to keep things light." Jenna nodded and signaled the waiter, who arrived promptly to take their orders. As they waited, Jenna and Professor Whitaker revisited the day's conversations. She asked about his favorite moments in the meetings, and he described one discussion about innovative design partnerships that had particularly excited him. Jenna felt her own enthusiasm rise, for she would soon be working to publicize those very ideas. "I can't tell you how much I appreciate your help today," he said sincerely. "You've made this transition seamless." He paused. "You know, when I first heard about the mix-up, I thought it would be a disaster. But instead I met someone kind, resourceful, and unflappable in a crisis." Jenna smiled, feeling warmth bloom in her chest. "I'm just glad it all worked out. And I've learned that sometimes the best connections happen through unexpected detours." Their tea arrived, and they sipped silently for a moment, taking in the view. The city seemed to pause below them, as if granting them a private moment amid the bustling world. After dinner, which was quiet and pleasant, roasted vegetables and grilled fish for him, a simple salad for her, they lingered over dessert. Alongside a plate of fresh fruit and light pastry, Jenna brought out a small booklet she had put together, a scrapbook of photographs and notes about Professor Whitaker's visit so far, including images of him giving a presentation, chatting with employees, and enjoying tea in the lounge. She'd arranged them chronologically with captions highlighting moments of insight, humor, and genuine human connection. He looked at the booklet with surprise and delight. "This is wonderful," he said, turning the pages slowly. "I haven't had a chance to collect memories like this in years. Thank you." "You deserve it," Jenna replied. "These moments matter." She closed the booklet and slid it across the table. "Also, I wanted to share some ideas for press release topics. I thought we could highlight the strategic partnerships we discussed earlier, and maybe a profile on how your leadership will shape Veritask's future. She pulled out a few neatly typed pages. I'd love your feedback. He reviewed them, thoughtfully, making a few notes in the margins. These are excellent ideas, he said. I especially like the angle about fostering creativity through interdisciplinary collaboration. He looked up. Jenna, you have a real knack for this. You take complex topics and make them relatable. Her cheeks warmed at the praise. Thank you. I'm excited to help tell your story, and Veritask's story. She paused, then added, I'd also like to interview a few team members who worked on your welcome projects. It could add a personal touch for our readers. That's perfect, he agreed. Feel free to set it up at your convenience. He folded the pages and tucked them into his jacket. I look forward to seeing what you create. After dessert, they walked back indoors, the cool night air replaced by the hotel's gentle warmth. In the elevator, Professor Whitaker turned to Jenna. I have one more request, he said. Could you recommend a good book for my flight? Home, something uplifting, maybe a modern novel. Jenna grinned. Absolutely, I know just the one. She described a recent bestseller, a heartwarming story about community and resilience, and he nodded eagerly. Thank you. I'll look for it tomorrow. He paused. Jenna, tonight has been one of the highlights of my trip. I appreciate both your professionalism and your genuine kindness. She felt on the verge of tears. Thank you, Adam, I'm honored. The elevator chimed at the lobby floor, and they parted ways with a friendly handshake, the kind of handshake that signifies mutual respect and the forging of a new friendship. Later that night, Jenna floated home on a wave of accomplishment. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mia. You nailed it, thank you again, we'll celebrate soon. Jenna texted back a string of emojis and the words, can't wait. She set her phone aside and collapsed onto her couch, thinking back through the day's events. She thought of the moment she first realized her mistake, driving off with a stranger who turned out to be a kind professor instead of the interim CEO. She remembered her panic, her relief when she corrected the error, and the genuine pleasure she felt talking with Professor Whitaker. She recalled the meeting with the real Mr. Whitaker, the respect in his eyes and the unexpected offer of a future collaboration. Now, as she rested her head on the soft cushion, she marveled at how one small favor had unfolded into so many new opportunities. She had discovered a passion for hospitality and storytelling, earned the trust of a company she admired, and made a friend in a scholarly gentleman with a love of poetry. She pictured herself drafting press releases, setting up interviews, and building narratives that would shine a light on Veritask's mission. Her thoughts drifted to tomorrow's schedule, a photo shoot with the design team, interviews with key staff, and a planning session for next month's product launch. She felt a steady excitement, like the steady beat of a drum calling her toward a new adventure. Before she drifted to sleep, Jenna whispered into the darkness, Thank you for the mix-up, the chance, and everything I've learned. She closed her eyes, her mind alive with possibilities. And in that quiet moment, Jenna realized that life's unexpected twists often lead to the most rewarding journeys. All it took was a mistaken identity at an airport pickup, and her world had opened in ways she never imagined. Tomorrow awaited, full of promise, and Jenna was ready to embrace every turn it would bring.